How's it going, everyone? I'm Chase Lee, and welcome back to another episode of Top 5 Saturdays Live with me, Chase Lee, and my co-host,
Brian Sutfield.
That's fucking right. And hey, listen, if you're new to the show, welcome. What we do on the show is we take a look at the movies coming out on Friday. We will pick one out of the litter, and we will pin it up against the wall and make fun of it. Not really, but we will pick something honoring said movie, like an actor, actress, director, genre, what have you, and we will make a top 5 list according to that. And the cool thing about this show is that we don't know each other's lists, and it's live, so we have no idea what the flipping dick shit's going to come out of our mouths. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So, Brian, first of all, well, before we begin, happy Thanksgiving week, guys. I hope you guys had a great time with your fams and stuff. That's where Brian is at right now, because this is his high school room, because he's in college now. Those years are behind him. So, Brian, how are we doing this week?
Thanksgiving was pretty good. Food was good. I went Black Friday shopping. I only got one thing, so yeah, I'm a committed guy. I only got one movie, and that's it. But I'm doing pretty good for the most part. How are you, sir? How was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, it was pretty good. You know, just hung out with the fam, and I got 3 movies, a couple video games, a couple CDs. So I kind of went all over the gambit in terms of Black Friday. What movie did you get?
I got Kingsman for $5. $4, excuse me.
Interesting. I still need to get Kingsman. God, where was that at?
Best Buy.
Oh, fucking Best Buy. I went to Walmart and I got Revenant, Sicario, and what was it? Oh, The Witch they were each $5, so it was totally worth it because I don't have any of them, and all 3 of those on Blu-ray. Yes, please. So. Yeah, so let us know how your Black Friday shopping went down below. I would like to know what you got on your haul, son. All right, Brian, what are we doing this week on this wonderful Thanksgiving week?
We haven't honored the filmmaker in forever, so we're honoring a filmmaker this week. This week, in honor of Allied, we are honoring Mr. Bobby Zemeckis.
Oh man, Robert Zemeckis. I'm telling you, like, a lot of people will say that he's like one of the best and everything, but like it's really sad to like see his track record in the past 5 years kind of like go down. Like every single movie he seems to come out with now doesn't make dick at the box office. So I don't know how that man's still working, but you keep doing your thing, Robert Zemeckis, because I will say this. I think his modern stuff gets a little bit too much hate and a little bit too much flack, and I think he actually does create some pretty interesting and diverse modern movies, which I'm pretty sure one of us will have at least 1 or 2 of them on our list. So, but what I love about Robert Zemeckis the most is that he's kind of an all-encompassing director. He loves to tackle pretty much anything inside of a movie: romance, comedy, drama, action. He's done a little bit of war. I would even count some horror as well. Like if you want to watch Beowulf, some of the CGI is pretty horrific, especially in Polar Express with Tom Hanks. And that he loves his mocap, but it was a little creepy and ahead of its time. But yeah, that's what I think about Robert Zemeckis, is that he is a director that can literally tackle every single genre. So, Brian, what about you? When you think of Robert Zemeckis, what is the one thing you think of?
Well, I mean, it's like you say, he's so diverse, which is always a delight. And yeah, I will agree with you. I think his underrated work his modern work is pretty underrated and overlooked at the box office. I mean, it does well critically, not so much financially. I wrote an article, like, why I think he's better. Like, I appreciate his classic films a lot. I mean, my top 2 are 2 of my favorite films ever made. And this one, I mean, with this guy, I mean, I've always loved this guy. I go to see all of his movies, like, every time they come out in the theater. I've been seeing, like, ever since, I would say, Polar Express, I've gone to see every film he's done in the theater, except for Beowulf, except for that, because when that came out, I had no interest in it, but I watched it later on in my life. But ever since that, I saw all of his films in the theater. I saw Polar Express, Christmas Carol, Flight, The Walk, and I just saw Allied earlier today. So, yeah, I mean, I love the guy. I think he's one of the most innovative directors we ever had, and he'll always have a special place in my heart, no matter what.
Yeah, I remember when I was in high school, Beowulf came out at the time we were reading Beowulf, so I was like, well, Cliff Notes, because I am lazy and I don't want to read it. So, I actually watched that movie in hopes I could do well on my test. I don't think I did well. But then again, I passed high school somehow, so I'm here, aren't I? Yeah, so without any further ado, let's get it started. Good old Robert Zemeckis. I'm ready to jump into this. And you guys are probably wondering, where's that good old Back to the Future on our list? You'll find out, but I think I'll surprise everyone at what I'll throw at you guys. But without any further ado, let's begin this crazy-ass episode. Number 5, Brian, what is your favorite Robert Zemeckis film of all time so far, even though his career looks like it's going to be DOA in a few more years because no one's seen his goddamn movies?
Yeah, that's kind of a sad thing. So for my number 5, I'm going with Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Okay.
Which I loved when I was a little kid. I remember seeing that a lot when I was younger. Obviously, it's better when you get older because you start seeing the layers there in that film. It's a gangster film, but lighthearted, which is awesome. I mean, it takes place in the crime era of the 40s and 50s, somewhere around that. I haven't seen the movie in forever, but I mean, Bob Hoskins plays the private eye or detective or something like that. I don't remember exactly what he played. Like I said, I haven't seen the movie in years. I'm just trying to remember the basics. Then he has to team up with Roger Rabbit, and it's an awesome movie. It's energetic. It's entertaining. It's funny. This was right after he made Back to the Future, so between Back to the Future and Back to the Future 2, this was his film, and it was great. It was something that was so like visionary for its time because it combined live action and it had CGI in it, and it looked so real. Like when he choked Roger Rabbit or he punched him or when Roger Rabbit kissed him, it looked real and it was pretty innovative. Sure, maybe a little dated now, but I still think it's a well-done movie. It's so funny. Jessica Rabbit, seductive. Sure. And then it's the first time we see Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse on screen together, and the only time we see him so far, so that's pretty dope. And I think it's a well-done film, pretty underrated in Zemeckis' catalog. Christopher Lloyd is incredibly scary as the villain. Yeah, I love Roger Rabbit, and I do want to watch it again, and that's my number 5.
It was also the first time Daffy Duck and Donald Duck were on screen.
Yes, that's true.
And the interesting story behind that, and I'm going to pass, by the way. Interesting story behind those is that Warner Brothers and Disney could not basically agree on who should get more screen time, obviously, and they basically split up the screen time. Literally, if you watch the Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse scene, they're in free fall and they're in the same frame, so that works. The Donald Duck and Daffy Duck, it's on a stage, and Daffy is the one playing the piano and Donald's the one on stage, but it'll intersplice and cut back really fast in between the two, and it actually is the same amount of time on screen for both of them. That way both studios can be happy and stuff. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but I will pass. So my number 5, I'm going to go with probably one of the first ones I saw, because I saw a bunch of his movies back to back when I was a kid. But I'm going to go with the one where he got his second win in a row. I'm going to go with Forrest Gump. I honestly don't know why a lot of people shit on the movie. Yeah, is good old Robin Wright in the movie a bitch? Sure. But I think this is what I was talking about when he plays the different genres and how he can put together a bunch of them all into one. It's an epic romance. It's a war film. It's a great special effects movie and of its time. I mean, damn, that fucking footage of him talking to the presidents it's ridiculous for 1994. It's got some drama in there. It's got some really depressing scenes. So it's just, I think it's a nice little sweeping drama, epic romance. It's not one of my favorites of all time, but I think out of his catalog, I think it does get a lot more hate than it deserves. And the performance from Tom Hanks is absolutely incredible, regardless of what you think of the movie or not. He is committed. He's always been committed, and that's what's so great about him. He always gives 110%. And there's so many memorable like side characters, Lieutenant Dan, Janae. I mean, hell, this is probably one of the most quotable movies, definitely of my generation and Brian's generation.
Mm-hmm.
People, run, Forrest, run. Do you know how many fucking times you heard that shit in middle school? All the fucking time. But then again, there was really no one named Forrest, so everyone was just basically saying it as if they had like a stutter or something. So, yeah, I'm gonna go with that as my number 5. Brian, what say you? You're gonna pass on this shit?
I'm gonna absolutely pass on this one.
Wow. Okay. All right. So moving on to our number 4. What you got?
You just talked about it, Forrest Gump.
Okay, there we go.
Now look, I used to say that this was kind of like in my top like 5 favorite films ever, and it still is it's like in my top 30. I don't get the hate either for Forrest Gump. Sure, I understand people get mad that it didn't win, that it won Best Picture over Shawshank Redemption and Pulp Shit-tin, Pulp Fiction. Sorry, I don't like Pulp Fiction. I'm sorry, but anyways, I think it's a great film. I think this was the first time where we saw a Zemeckis film, and we were like, wow, Zemeckis could actually do something other than Back to the Future and Roger Rabbit. That's pretty fucking awesome. And yes, I mean, it is quotable. It's so funny. It's really heartbreaking. I think for what they did visually, it was great. I love Alan Silvestri's score. And by the way, that dude will be brought up numerous times on this list, no matter what. On this list, no matter what, because Alan Silvestri is the fucking king. I love the soundtrack for this movie. Tom Hanks is incredible in the movie. I mean, obviously, this was the second Oscar he won in a row after Philadelphia. And everyone else is great. Robin Wright's great as Jenny, despite her being an absolute biatch. Gary Sinise is fantastic as Lieutenant Dan. The guy that plays Bubba's great. Sally Field is great as Forrest's mom. It's a great film, great cast. I love the film. I think it's like a perfect 5 out of 5 for me. And I remember when it was released 2 years ago, I went to the theater and I saw it, and it was just a great experience for me. I love Forrest Gump. I don't get the hate for it. Yes, it may not be the best film ever. Sure, it may be slightly overrated to some people, but it's not a horrible film. Like, that's the thing. I read an article recently. Still don't get why people hate this movie. So, yeah, I love Forrest Gump, and it's my number 4.
Yeah, I was looking up on the list, and he actually he did a movie right after Back to the Future 3 called Death Becomes Her, and that was the Bruce Willis Meryl Streep movie. That's a weird fucking movie, I can tell you that much. Then he did Forrest Gump. So yeah, it was kind of weird. He went from Back to the Future 3, let's wrap up a great trilogy. Let's do a weird like revenge romance movie, and then we'll go to an Oscar winning movie. Zemeckis is all over the place, but in a good way. My number 4, I'm gonna go with one of the recent ones. Now, I remember when I took my brother to see this, and I remember I was watching it, and I was like, holy shit, why is no one in the movies right now? Because I'm pretty sure me and my brother saw it, and we were the only ones in there. I was working in the theater at the time, so we got it for free, and I felt bad because like there was no one in there, so we didn't really give any of our money to it. But I remember at the end of the movie, I was convinced that good old Denzel was going to get a nomination, and I was right. I'm going with Flight. What a great fucking movie about alcoholism and someone that is addicted to that substance. Say what you will about the under or upside down airplane weirdo superhero flying plane in the beginning of the movie. It's still a riveting sequence, and I actually prefer this film over Sully, which is kind of basically the same thing, except Sully wasn't a raging alcoholic, even though he did have a Grey Goose with a splash of water in a bar in that movie. So I guess he did drink some alcohol, but he was not a raging alcoholic like Denzel Washington was. And the whole process of that movie was for people to see if he had any drugs in the system, see if he had any alcohol in the system, because he crashed the plane and it did not really fare well. And people have to investigate, and I get that shit. And at the very end, when they're having the hearing, and Denzel breaks down, he basically admits that he is an alcoholic because he's been denied for so long. He couldn't come full circle with it. Like he was just always no, I am not an alcoholic, and he would always just deny it. And that one scene at the very end where he breaks down and cries, you're like, damn, not only does Denzel got it still, Zemeckis has still got it. And I believe, he didn't make this was his first movie in 3 years, because the one before this was A Christmas Carol, and the one before that was Beowulf, and the one before that was The Polar Express. So basically, this was like the first one out of his like mocap funk. So I think Flight's a really great film about addiction. It's a really riveting film, especially that opening sequence. It's a really great drama. Denzel Washington gives one of the best performances of his career, and he deserves that nomination. So I'm going to go with Flight. You're probably thinking to yourself, if I put Flight number 4, what in the fuck is above it? So, yeah. Moving on to number 3, what you got?
Flight.
Are you okay? Are you just like trailing behind, or like what's the deal, fam?
What are you doing? Well, what do you mean? What do you mean, bro?
Why are you trailing? You should be having them in the same spot as me.
Well, I mean, I did have Flight number 4, but then I'm like, I think it's kind of a better film than Gump. So, yeah. Okay, Flight for me, it's like you said, I remember seeing it too. I went with my dad and my sister, and it was I'm like, why is there no one in the theater? Now, granted, we did go on, I think we went on like a Tuesday afternoon, so it was like, it was during my fall break. So I was like, why isn't anyone here? But then again, I remember the same weekend Wreck-It Ralph came out, which is an awesome film. So yeah, that's different. But Flight, yeah, I mean, what a great movie about alcoholism. I mean, this is like an absolute dramatic film, and it's one of Zemeckis' best. This was his first live action film in 12 years, because the last live action film he did before this was Castaway. And the thing is, what a great comeback for him for the live action world, because I bet most people were getting tired of the mocap. And look, none of the mocap films are on my list. I mean, Polar Express, I watched it a lot when I was a little kid. Now I'm just like, it's whatever. Beowulf, Christmas Carol, see, his mocap work is just okay. It's fine for what it is. But his live action work, this was also his first R-rated film since the 80s, and that was somewhat different because most people were probably getting tired of him just doing the PG-13 stuff, and this was so R-rated that it was like crazy. The drinking, the language, the sex. It was intense. It was a great film. Denzel's performance was honestly incredible, and I'm glad he also got nominated for the Oscar. The screenplay was also nominated too. I wish Zemeckis got a Best Director nom for this movie, but the Academy, they like to be kind of biased and pick safe movies. That's the thing. They like to pick safe and not pick movies like this. But anyway, I love the movie, and you're on the edge of your seat because while you think he's going to be sober, he goes back to it, then he goes to sober, then back to it, especially that sequence in the hotel room. He looks at that drink, he puts it on the table, he walks away, he grabs it. Your heart explodes and you're basically about to die. But I love Flight. It's an engaging drama. I love it so much. All the other performances were great, but Denzel carries this movie, and it's one of his best performances / films. I love Flight. I own it on Blu-ray. It's literally right next to Forrest Gump. I love Flight so much. It's my number 3. Everyone needs to check this out if they haven't seen it.
Yeah, if you guys were curious, like as to which one is better, Flight is the better Sully. So
I liked Sully a lot, but I'll have to agree, Flight is the better film.
Yeah. So my number 3, I'm going to go with basically the one live action film before that. I'm going to go with Castaway. I remember when I watched this as a kid, I didn't really understand it because, as a kid, I was just into, I guess, boobies and monster trucks, which I still am now. I'm 26. However, when I watched it when I'm in film school, I had a better appreciation for it. Not because it's an extravagantly cinematic movie. It really isn't. It's a very intimate, isolated movie about this guy just trying to survive on this damn island. And when you have a performance like Tom Hanks carry that film from beginning to end, it is literally him on screen. Besides, the front and the end bumper, the whole middle portion of that movie is him. And if your actor sucks ass and cannot command attention when the film takes place in one location, your movie's going to suck. It just is. But Tom Hanks made us believe that he was deserted on this island. He made us believe that he was trying to start a fire with some brush and twigs. He made us believe that he was harpooning a fish with a fucking stick. He also made us believe that scene still makes me cringe every single time when his tooth is rotten and he bangs it out with a rock. Kills me. It makes me cringe every single time. But what a great movie about survival and the human spirit to get the fuck back up on your feet and try to survive and try to stick this through. and it's got one of the most heartbreaking friendships you'll ever see on screen, and it's between a man and a Wilson-made volleyball. So, and I think that really has to be a testament to the direction. If that was not believable, it would look stupid with him talking to Wilson, the volleyball. And so, but he directed Tom Hanks to make Tom Hanks make us believe it. So, yeah, I really like Castaway. Is probably one of my favorite kind of like isolated movies, like one location type movies. So yeah, I really love Castaway quite a bit. Brian, what say you?
Pass.
Let me guess, is it your fucking number 2? Because you're up.
Yes.
You're up, well, actually, yeah, you're up, Buttercup. Let's go.
Yes, it's my number 2.
Wow. This is getting a little ridiculous.
I'm sorry. It's not my fault. Jesus, how was I supposed to know that you were going to have everything one slot below me except for Roger Rabbit? Jesus.
Oh, dear Lord.
How was I supposed to know that you were going to go this route? I'm sorry. Jeez. It's like the whole Jonah Hill episode where he got mad at me and Ash for having the same fucking list. Practically the exact same list.
Because you guys were in cahoots. You called each other and were like, hey, what's your number 5? Cool. What's your number 4? Cool. I mean that.
Okay.
That's how it went.
If you say so, boss. Okay. Yeah, when I first saw Castaway, I didn't really have much of a fondness for it either. But I can tell you that when I watched it, I was just in love with it because of Zemeckis' direction. When you do these one location films, you really gotta get a lot out of the people and the location itself. And I guess when you cast an actor like Tom Hanks, you know that you're gonna get something really special. I mean, this was obviously his second time working with him, and I will go on a limb by saying that to me, it's like a two-way tie, because to me, the 2 best performances he's ever given, Tom Hanks, are this and Philadelphia in terms of his best performances, and this might edge it out just a little bit because this movie's basically on his whole shoulders, and he's amazing in it. He's fantastic. I mean, obviously it's Tom Hanks, but him talking to a volleyball, you wouldn't think that's compelling, but it worked out so well because you were really compelled because of the way Zemeckis directed it and the way Tom Hanks was acting. It was just so good that it was an engaging film, and it could have been a boring film. It really could have been boring, but it's not, because you feel for Tom Hanks' character so much. You want him to get home. If he can't, then he can't. I'm not going to spoil it, although everyone's probably already seen the movie by now, but regardless. There's just a lot of good things in this movie. I mean, the ending scene, the last scene with him talking about, I forgot specifically, it was about life or something, how life goes on and everything. I love that scene so fucking much that I feel kind of that he should have won an Oscar for this film. Now, granted, he already has 2 Oscars, but it would have been nice if he got the Oscar for this, because this movie was basically him and him only. Yeah, you had a bit of Helen Hunt in the beginning, then the end of the movie, then that was that. But it was his movie only. And yes, the scene where he says goodbye to Wilson, I mean, how can you not cry to that? How can you not feel anything towards that? But it was well done. I love it. It's quiet, it's intimate, it's intense. I love Castaway so much that I think it's a film that everyone sees, and it's annoying when people say Wilson, 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 and yet people were like, oh, I don't know what that's from. Like, you should know. You shouldn't quote something you don't know what it's from, because it doesn't, then that doesn't mean you're, it's annoying when people say Wilson. Like, you don't even know what the fuck that's from, boy. So, yeah, Castaway's my number 2. I love it so much. Yep. It's my number 2.
I like how you said in the beginning, a little bit of Helen Hunt, which is never a bad thing. I've had a crush on that woman ever since I've seen her in Twister, and then yeah,
Yep.
No, I agree. Like, every time when she like pops up into a movie, it's just like Helen Hunt. Okay,
hello. You're like, hello, Helen Hunt. Hello.
I'm with this, Mrs. Hunt. I am with this situation right now. All right, so yeah, Castaway is a great pick. I think I need to get it. I don't think I own it anymore, but I want to try to get it on good old Blu-ray. So, yeah, moving on to my number 2, I'm going to go with Brian's number 5. I'm going to go with Roger Rabbit. This film is a great representation of what an edgy PG film looks like. I am so sick of anime movies being rated PG today when they really don't even warrant the PG rating. I love that PG rating where like you can bring your parents to it and your parents are going to get a lot of the innuendos and stuff, but the kids are going to enjoy it because it's a little bit more mature for them and doesn't treat them like they're idiots. The whole aesthetic of this film is amazing. I love the real life people with the drawn characters, especially when they go to it's called Toontown, Brian.
Something like that. I'll look it up. I'll look it up.
Yeah, it's one of those. Sorry, I haven't seen it in a while, but and by a while, I mean I literally saw it 3 months ago. That's what's cool about it. I saw it once as a kid, and then when Netflix put it on there, I saw it when it was on there. I think it was a few months ago, and it still holds up. 1988.
Yep, you were right. Toontown.
Toontown. Okay, and so 1988, these effects are amazing. I love the way how everything is hand drawn. It looks a little bit old school and old fashioned, just like with the genre, which is film noir for kids, basically. I like the whole, like I said, the vibe of it. It has that kind of dark noir feel, but also the innocence and the childlike behavior of like a Roger Rabbit or like these cartoon characters mixed in. It's just a very interesting and unique combination that I really enjoy. And I think this is a film that you can, if you're a kid, you can watch it with your parents, and your parents will get every single innuendo joke that Jessica Rabbit just utters out of her cooch. And then you'll have the kids that'll just be like, that's some great fucking animation. But like what Brian said, I love the fact that in 1988, they had to use basically their imagination to where Bob Hoskins had to, when he was like choking out Roger Rabbit, not in a sexual way, calm your fucking bestiality minds down. When he's choking him out and he's literally like using his hand out in midair, there's nothing there. And so you have to like act like there is something there in your hand. And so when they animate it, they can animate Roger getting choked and they can composite it right around the hand. It's flawless in terms of special effects and just the way it's kind of edited and put together. It is a really great film noir. I really enjoy it. And Christopher Lloyd, man, that creepy ass motherfucker at the end of the movie, he will give you nightmares, and he still will. Even when you're an adult and you watch it now, some creepy imagery, and you're like, hey, Zemeckis, but we calm that down. Not really. Keep it going. So my number 2 is Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And I'm not going to even fucking attempt to do the voice. I've been trying to nail a Roger Rabbit for years. It is hard to do, folks. It is hard to fucking do. So, yeah, that'll be it for our number 2. Guys, here's our number 1. And you already know what Brian and I are going to pick. However, I think one of us is going to throw a curveball at you. And
I already know this curveball.
Yep. And I already know what's going to happen. And people are going to probably throw pitchforks at Brian or myself, and it's going to get really brutal. So, Brian, can you explain to me why your number 1 is the number 1, and I'll explain why my number 1 is the other one.
Yeah, okay. In 1985, we had a slew of films that came out, a lot of different films that came out, like The Breakfast Club, St. Elmo's Fire, but the biggest one, of course, was Back to the Future, which is my number 1, and to me, not only my favorite Zemeckis film, it's the best film that he's ever done, period. I've always loved Back to the Future since I was a little kid. And it's in my top 10 films of all time. I could watch this film over and over again, and it will never bore me. Never bore me. It's funny, it's charming, it's original, it's clever. It's an awesome, awesome, awesome film. I mean, you have 2 big television stars from the 80s in this film. Michael J. Fox was already big for being on Family Ties, which was one of the biggest sitcoms in the 1980s. Him doing this movie, originally, there's a lot of fun facts behind this movie, and I'm sure everyone knows that originally Eric Stoltz was cast in this role. But he dropped out after a month because Zemeckis just wasn't fond with him. He didn't have the charm that Martin McFly should have. So then they brought in Michael J. Fox, and there's a lot of cool stories with this movie. He would go shoot Family Ties, and then in the late evening, he would go and shoot this. And that must have been the most chaotic work ever. going from shooting your sitcom and then going to shoot a big movie. That must have been a lot of work. And I believe he also filmed Teen Wolf while doing this movie too. So that's crazy. You picked the right guy to play Marty McFly. Michael J. Fox is incredible in this role. He's so good. He's so charming. He's awesome. And you want to be best friends with Marty McFly. For goodness sakes, I was this guy for Halloween last year. And then you have Christopher Lloyd, who was already popular for being on Taxi, which was one of the most respectable sitcoms ever and still is to this day. And then him coming on to this film, you're like, hey, for a guy that's like in his late 40s, early 50s, the guy could play a really old, wacky scientist very fucking well. And their chemistry was amazing, off the charts. But yeah, it's an original premise. This kid goes into a time machine. It accidentally sends him back to the 50s. And then he has to make sure his parents get together because he accidentally ruins the timeline. And it could potentially not only ruin the future, it can make him disappear. And he's got to stop this before everything happens. It's a great premise. It was nominated for Best Original Screenplay, for goodness sakes. The dialogue in this movie is amazing. It's great. I love the direction. The visuals were great. It's a clever premise. Back to the Future is just one of those movies that makes you feel good. It makes you feel good. If you're down on earth, like if you just lost something and you just feel depressed, you gotta put on Back to the Future because it's one of those movies that will make you happy inside. Happy on the outside and inside as well. I loved Back to the Future so fucking much. But I also like the sequels. And I know where Chase is going to go with this, and I'm not mad at him about it because I like both sequels. I'm not going to say which one is his number one because I know which one he's going with. But I want to say this. This is one of those rare trilogies that I love. Now, granted, are the sequels to me as good as the first one? Not entirely. There are some aspects of it that make it on the same level. The third one to me is just good. The second one, in my opinion, is great. Just, I don't like it as much as the first film. Because the first one, to me, is a perfect 10 out of 10, A+, 5 out of 5. The sequel is like a 4.5 out of 5, A, 9.5 out of 10. It's like that. So, yeah, Back to the Future, I adore it so much, and I know where Chase is going to go, so go on ahead, Chase. Hype it up for the people.
Oh, you know, number one is a great pick. And I remember watching the first one many, many times. It's one of my dad's favorite movies. It's one of my high school friends' favorite movies. We watched it all the time. And when we hit 88 miles an hour, we're going to see some serious shit. Here's the deal, folks. I saw the first one. I loved it. And I was like, holy shit. Well, is there more out there? Like, where can I venture off to continue to support my Back to the Future addiction? And then I found part 2. And then I realized something happened inside my body. It was probably puberty. But something else happened. And I gotta say, after many times of watching it, after many times of dissecting it, and just my overall enjoyment, I think the second one is actually better than the first one. Congratulations. I just said something sacrilegious on this show. You guys can all fire your hate comments now. Listen, I love the first one a lot. So do not twist my words and say I hate it. I love it. But I like the second one even more. Because you want to talk about creativity and originality. I love the fact that the second one overloops the first one's timeline and going back and going on that timeline as a different Marty and experiencing that again from a different point of view was awesome to witness. Not only that, I love the Almanac storyline. It is my favorite storyline of the trilogy. I love the fact that fucking Biff like gets that book and basically turns into a Donald Trump. It's amazing because he's a dick. He turns the whole town into a shit show. And then Marty's got to go and fucking save the day. It's so great. But while he's doing that, he overlaps in the first one. You see it from a different, like I said, point of view. It's just so creative. And the characters, they're explored a little bit more. I love all the chemistry between everyone. Doc and Marty, fantastic. This is why we get shows like Rick and Morty, which is a fantastic show, by the way. Go watch it. But that chemistry is just once again kind of bled into the sequel. The sequel is a great continuation of the first one, and it literally picks up right after the first one, which most sequels don't even do nowadays. Most sequels will do like 10 years later, even a few months later, but like Back to the Future 2 literally picks up right after the first one ended. That's what makes it such a great continuation. And I'm one of the only fucking people on Earth that likes the sequel a little bit more than the first, even though I love the first. So, yeah, I'm a sucker for that Almanac storyline, so sue me. So, yeah, Brian, can you diagnose my mental condition, or do I have to go see a doctor for this?
No, you don't. You don't. I love the sequels. I love the second one as well. It's just I like the first one slightly more, but the sequel, like if I had to rank like the sequels, like the second installments, like just second installments, this would definitely be in my top 10 for sure. I love Back to the Future Part 2. At first, I really didn't care for it, but I appreciate it way more now after seeing the entire trilogy numerous times. So yeah. You don't have to go to the hospital or anything for that.
Whew. I thought I had like a I don't know, like some type of like disease. Yeah. So I really like the second one quite a bit, and to this day I still Oh wow! See, someone in the comments actually agrees with me. Thank you, Josh Edwards. I've always liked Part 2 over Part 1, but I still love Part 1. My sentiments exactly, sir. So him and I are the only ones on Earth that like it a little bit more than the first. But it's really funny, like when I tell my dad that I like the sequel more than the first, and my dad always gives me the same response. I'm gonna try to imitate him as best as I can. I'll be like, "Hey, Dad, what do you think about the first Back to the Future? Oh, it's really great. I like the movie. What do you think about the sequels? It's just not the first. It's just not the first one." So yeah, so Dad, if you're watching this, congratulations. I don't think I portrayed you very well, but I love his response every single time I mention the sequels. But yeah, and then the third one's pretty solid, but I think for me personally, the sequel will always win out for me. So yeah, what about you guys? What are some of your favorite Robert Zemeckis movies? Comment in the place where my face and let me know. And here is both of our lists. We basically have pretty much the same damn thing, except I have Back to the Future 2, and he has number 1. And if he just moved his 2 through 4 down and moved his 5 up to 2, we would be in business, folks. So, yeah, what say you guys? Comment down below. And speaking of that, we're not done yet because honorable mention, son, he's got so much more. All right. Going through his list, I have not seen anything before Back to the Future, so I apologize. Of course, Back to the Future, number 3. I have seen Death Becomes Her. I watched it one time. I rented it from a video store, a Vitio store. You remember that shit? And I remember thinking it was the weirdest thing. I returned it the very next day, and I forgot about it. And that was probably back in 1999. So when I was like 9 or so. Let's see. Contact. I think it's a pretty interesting little alien movie. A lot of people don't bring this one up. What Lies Beneath? I actually don't mind that. Harrison Ford. Oh shit. What's her name?
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Thank you, Michelle Pfeiffer. It's like if Robert Zemeckis got permission to do a Lifetime movie, that would be it. And I enjoy it because I always like seeing Harrison Ford in other things besides blockbusters. This is something way fucking different. Like this is a smaller, like kind of like, I don't know, it's like a suspenseful mystery movie. I haven't seen it in quite a while, but I love it on a guilty pleasure level. I have not seen Polar Express, even though those trailers still creep me out to this day. Tom Hanks, all aboard! And then he does that weird like fucking smile. Listen, say what you will about Zemeckis. He is not the first one to do it, but he tried to mainstream it for a full movie, and he has failed at it every single time. Because the first instance of mocap I remember is from Lord of the Rings in 2001. Polar Express came out in 2004, which was a year after Return of the King. So Polar Express was, I believe, in my lifetime, the very first full-length mocap movie, and it just freaked everyone the fuck out. Then Beowulf came out. To be honest with you, I don't even remember. I actually sold it today. This is not a joke. I had it in my collection. I realized that I will probably never touch it again, and I sold it at a pawn store for 50 cents. A Christmas Carol came out 2 years later. I actually didn't mind that one. I think it's okay at best. Let's see. Oh, and I gotta talk about this. The fucking walk. I like the walk so much. I don't know why people rail on that one too. Like, this is what gets me excited even more about Allied, because it's modern Zemeckis. It's his third one. Third live action in a row, and the previous two I have loved. So I fucking can't wait for Allied. But yeah, I'm gonna say the walk. Regardless of what you think of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's accent, regardless of what you think of the beginning of that movie, the whole ending sequence is worth it alone for price of admission. I saw that shit, and I believe it was IMAX, or it was like the big screen format or whatever. It was beautiful to watch. It was like one of the greatest stories I've seen in a while, in terms of like someone pursuing their dream and fucking doing it. Will it kill them? They don't fucking care. They just want to go complete it. And I love that shit. Motivation, guys. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I guess I don't have any dishonorable mentions. So, well, I guess it's Beowulf. I jumped ahead, whatever. But Brian, what say you? Where's some of the ones that you also love from the Zemeckis?
Back to the Future 2 and 3. Have not seen. What's the one he did after Back to the Future 3? Death Becomes Her.
Death Becomes Her.
Haven't seen it. Have not seen that one.
Watch it. It's fucking weird.
Contact I like. I like Contact. That's a good one. What Lies Beneath, I think is fine. But I remember I liked Harrison Ford in it, and Meow, Michelle Pfeiffer. I'm not saying Meow just because she was Catwoman, but she is very meow, delicious. See, here's the thing with Polar Express for me. Like, sure, it's well done and everything. It's just that, like, the year after it came out, when it came out on DVD, that was the movie that they would show every goddamn Christmas in my elementary school. Every motherfucking Christmas, we would go into the cafeteria, which was like the auditorium, sit down on that goddamn hard-ass floor and watch that fucking movie. Jesus Christ. Look, it's fun and everything. It scares the shit out of me. It gave me nightmares, still does to this day. Every time it's on that freeform 25 Days of Christmas thing, and it's on, and then he goes down in the cellar and he sees those fucking puppets, and then he's like, "You're a downer." I'm like, first of all, that is the darkest fucking thing I've seen in a G-rated movie in my life, other than the incinerator scene from Toy Story 3. Second, well done and everything. And it's weird because Tom Hanks does the motion capture for every fucking character. I don't know why I'm swearing so much about this movie. It's crazy.
You obviously love it, or it has touched you inappropriately.
I don't hate it. It's just that there are things about it I love, for sure. It made me love hot chocolate. Every time I watch it, I gotta have some hot chocolate because of that one sequence. Beowulf. It's okay. It's not terrible. It's not great. I only saw it once, so I can't say I remember much of it. All I remember is that there was really bad CGI and Angelina Jolie. Christmas Carol, don't care for that one that much, but it's well done, and I love Jim Carrey in it, so I'll give that the benefit of the doubt. And yeah, I like The Walk a lot too. I really dug the crap out of it. I was on your show when you reviewed it. I was on your show. Saw it on IMAX 3. I was the youngest person in the theater. There was like no one in the theater. It was me and like at least 8 other people. And there was a funny story when I saw it. So when I went to go see it, it didn't start for like 20 minutes, the movie. And there was something wrong with it. And there was this woman like a few rows down from me who was like this old Jewish woman. She was like, this happens every goddamn time whenever I go see a movie in the IMAX. It happened 2 weeks ago when I went to go see that Everest movie, and now it's happening again for this Walk movie. Like, what the shit? And I'm like, lady, settle down. Settle your tits down and sit the fuck down. Good movie, though. Really awesome. And I saw Allied this morning. You know, I'm going to say this right now. I don't understand that mixed reception. This is one of those few movies that's getting very mixed reception that I actually really quite enjoyed. I really enjoyed Allied. So, yeah.
So you and I are the only people in the country that Just enjoy a modern Zemeckis movie. Okay, then. Well, I can't wait to watch LA tomorrow morning. So moving on to dishonorable mentions, I guess I got to go Beowulf only because it's forgettable. And I only remember the scene where Angelina Jolie walks out butt naked out of that pool. Other than that, I don't remember anything from it. That's why I sold it to you, because I'm not going to watch it ever again. So, Brian, what say you? Was probably the one worst one you could probably pin on him.
Probably that one. It's probably that one because he hasn't really made any shitty movies ever. Well, yeah, he has not made any shitty movies. Yeah, that's probably the one for me. I like you. I don't really remember much of it. I only saw it once, and the only thing I remember, like I just said, is the Angelina Jolie walking out of it butt naked. It's not the worst movie ever, but it's just bland. It's mediocre at best. Like it's there, and then it's gone, and that's it. So yeah, it's definitely his most forgettable film. So I mean, it's a good thing that it's not a horrible film because that means, in our opinion, he hasn't made a horrible film.
No, he's one of the few directors we've covered where it's like he's got a pretty solid track record, so I can't really go against him. But what about you guys? What are some of your favorites and least favorite Robert Zemeckis films? I would like for someone out there to combat with us and basically say that all of his modern ones are terrible, and let me know why. I just want to know why everyone dislikes most of his modern ones so much. So yeah, I'm just really curious. So yes. Moving on to next week, what are we doing?
Next week, Jackie comes out in limited release. We're on the film star Miss Natalie Portman.
Oh, shit. This is going to be interesting because everyone probably has a feeling of what I'm going to put as my number one. If you guys know me for any amount of time, I'm really interested to see what Brian puts on there. But that is what we're doing next week for good old Nat Portman. So yeah, tune in next week for that episode. It should be a lot of fun. So before we get to that episode, we got to wrap up this one. So Brian, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at BrianSutton98. It's right here. And on YouTube at Brian Sutfield.
Awesome. You can follow me at Real Chase Slee. Subscribe to YouTube, all that jazz. I got a podcast. Brian's got trailer reaction stuff. All that links in the description will be below, and you can check that shit out. But until next time, I'm Chase Lee.
I'm Brian Sutfield.
That's fucking right. Top 5 Saturdays Live. Robert Zemeckis, what you got? Comment down below. See you next week. Bye-bye.